Well, it's about to get loud, ladies and gentlemen. Our guests today formed their band in the mid-1990s when a majority of the members were still in high school, and probably some of us also in this room. Standouts in what was then a robust Lawrence, Kansas City music scene, the group gained notoriety in 1999 after releasing an album that many point to as the defining work of what would be known as, quote-unquote, the second wave of emo. All at once, the band launched into the stratosphere, putting themselves, their record label, on the map, groundbreaking work that would pave the way for other groups to build on the band's success. The group has stopped and started their career several times, each member having several credits and projects to their name. After 8 years, they have announced a new full-length album now, Problems, which is due out May 10th on polyvinyl. Please welcome to the Bridge Studios in our 909 session, the Get Up Kids. Guys, welcome.
Thanks.
How are you?
Is that our funeral? That sounded like it was like we were like our wake. I didn't know we were going to have like our full bio read before.
Wikipedia is a great thing, right? Is that Jim? Yeah. Actually, Matt, I'm going to start with you because, little disclosure here, you and I went to high school together.
Go Stags?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bishop Miege High School, Mrs. Reynolds forensics class, sitting in the back.
I went to state in forensics.
What were your events?
Improvised duet acting.
Imagine
Me and
that.
my friend Ryan would drink literally an entire pitcher of coffee each and just be like, which is basically like doing party drugs. And it was just like, we were like, and like we'd do these crazy skits. And then by the time we would get to like the third, like, you know, the final one, we would be gone. We would always blow it in the very end because we would be crashing. But
Yeah. I could tell you everything that you need to know about salt.
Okay.
I went to State and Informative speaking about salt, so we can compare. Yes, right? We can.
Jim has a geology degree. He doesn't get
Matt,
paid to be a geologist.
If you would do us the favor of introducing the rest of the band, because I want people to know who we're talking about when we tell some of these stories here.
Well, from Olathe, Kansas, you have Jim Suptic, Rob and Ryan Pope. And from Liberty, Missouri, you have James Deweese.
Welcome, guys. Let's pick up the story then from high school, because right around that time, Matt, you're playing in Secret Dakota Ring.
With Jim.
Right? With Jim.
Yeah.
And you've got, in the meantime, who was playing in Kingpin? Who was in Kingpin? The three of you guys. So
Kingpin broke up, and then Jim and I started Secret Dakota.
So then where does this band come together? Where does that coalesce?
The three of us started playing together.
Funny you said coalesce, because that's who James was playing with at
Yeah.
the time.
And we started practicing with a different drummer, and then he wanted to go to art school or something, and so he left, and then I was like, right, you know. Get an emotional problem. No, he's a nice guy.
So, yeah.
Oh, speaking of which, I would like to commend you on your specificity of the second wave of emo, because we just get flat out emo, and that can mean anything from My Chemical Romance. Nope, I didn't mean that in a bad way. No, I didn't.
You had to specifically call them out for sure, right?
Well, James played with them.
Let me start at the beginning, because originally I hear that you wanted to call yourselves the Suburban Get Up Kids.
Well, I was in a band called Secular Theme, and the band had a song called Suburban Get Up Kids that was about like the kids who, when the Rumba Box was a thing back in the day, which is an all-ages club in downtown Kansas City, the suburban kids from Olathe, Liberty, or whatever would all come in and come to the shows, and so that's what.
Matt thought he was better than us.
Yeah.
Because he lived in.
Because I lived in Brookside. I'm street. I'm from the streets, the nasty streets of Ward Parkway.
But from what I hear, you felt like there were too many bands already named S.
Well, we were just talking about this because the VFW hall is across the street,
Right.
where we used to play all the time, and I was like, I think we only played there once or twice as Get Up Kids, but like I played there with Secret Dakota Ring, Savage, Secular Theme, and so I had a string of bands that all started with S that broke up within like 6 months. So, and then this band's been together for 22 years.
You wanted to get out of that letter, right? Yeah.
Oh my
You
God,
felt like G would
24
be better.
years.
So I was going down the YouTube rabbit hole, and I found a video of you guys from March 1st, 1996, and it was called Amanda's House Party.
St. Louis.
You remember the gig?
Oh, yeah.
That was our second show ever, I think.
Was it really?
I remember
first
so much
out-of-town
more from the '90s than I do from last week was a different. South by Southwest was a different story, but yeah, I mean, I remember seeing a video of that show. I remember it very, very well.
It's on YouTube. You don't have to look very hard. It's right
Yeah.
there. It was so.
Story about Amanda.
Yes,
She is the director and directs that show Ozark.
she does. Amanda grew
I
up
didn't
to
know
direct
that.
Ozark. Wow.
She directed the last season finale.
Wow, good honor.
So after a little while, you guys mentioned the shuffling of the lineup, and you kind of got set. You start to record your first 7 inches, your first EP. What was that recording process like?
I thought you were going to talk. So I'm going to take a drink of water.
Anyone?
Go ahead and
Jim?
What was the recording process of our last EP like?
No, the first one, the very first one.
Oh, the first
What was
one?
that first like being in the recording studio together?
You know, back then you don't really think about it. You're just sort of playing the songs you've been playing live. It's basically like a live recording. I don't think we knew much.
I remember we
anything.
chose that
Hey,
studio-
sometimes that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
We chose a studio in Lincoln, Nebraska. Omaha or Lincoln? Lincoln? Well, the first 7-inch we put out, but we chose that studio because they charge by the song instead of by the hour,
Okay.
which is a bad business model. But
Because you could take a whole week to make a song.
Yeah.
Right? Well,
the first EP we did, we recorded with Ed Rose at Red House Studios in Lawrence.
The original one.
Yeah.
yeah.
And he played solitaire the whole time.
Well,
And the rest is history.
The rest is history. Well, it went on to 4 Minute Mile, which was your first full length album, and from that, it really kind of took you guys to this process where you were on Doghouse, but then labels started to call, and you started to bandy about these names. Vagrant Records ends up your home. What was the decision around that?
Well, we were going to sign to this other label, and we talked to Sub Pop at one point, but like everyone thought of us as like a baby band, and we had already been touring for 2 years and been fairly successful at it. And everyone still kind of looked at us and they're like, "Oh, I don't know what to do with you guys." And so they'd be like, "We'll give you a demo deal." And we're like, "No, we've already put out an album." Like,
Yeah.
and so Vagrant was really kind of a means to an end. It was supposed to be sort of a stepping off point because we wanted to get off Doghouse. So we never intended to stay on Vagrant. We intended to do one record with Vagrant and then completely sell out to a major label after
We're
that.
still waiting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the album that you start making, Something to Write Home About, becomes this legendary record. But before that, you're recording, you're in LA, you're far away from KC, you're far away from friends and family. Did that inform the writing process at all?
No, I don't think so. It was all written before we got there.
Before you got
yeah,
there? Yeah.
But being away on tour and things like that,
Yeah,
definitely.
that was definitely
kinda-
in there.
yeah. I mean, we were on tour back then. I think one year, 10 months out of the year, we were on the road. It's kind of our life.
I think it's when that record came out.
Yeah,
That's when we-
which is a lot. It also helped helped us have a career and longevity in the music business. But
and put in our 10,000 hours as a live band. So
Right. You know, it
I assume so, because it feels
That's
like
a
it.
lot of
It's a lot
felt
of
like
hours,
a lot
right?
longer than that.
they say to be a master at something, you have to put in 10,000
Yeah.
hours. Isn't that right? You guys have mastered
Well,
that
Malcolm
by now.
Gladwell said that. I don't know if they say it necessarily.
You take that for what it's worth, right?
Yeah. He's a pretty smart guy.
So I find this interesting. I'm going back and I'm reading stuff about the album, and I'm reading stuff that came out then. And we talk about emo,
Second wave emo.
second wave of emo,
Right.
and you guys actually worked pretty hard for a while to kind of distance yourself from that phrase, right? You to kind of pull away from that genre. What was that about?
Well, I mean, when we were younger, it was a derogatory term. Like it was like not like a positive thing, which it seems to have evolved into. And I don't know. No one wants to be called emotional. Like it's just.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
I mean, all music's emotional, right?
Right.
Right. but when you talk about having those feelings and when you relate to a song like that, I mean, yes, you're right. It was a derogatory term. You used a phrase in an interview that I can't say on the radio.
Right. And I specifically didn't say that as well because I know we're in We're not
But-
supposed to say those words on here.
I think it's interesting because I think that the other side of that was this masculinity that now we're kind of figuring out is kind of this toxic masculinity, right? And so then it kind of all came to play that, oh, well, to be in touch with your feelings, to have those feelings through music, that actually makes sense. That's a good thing to do.
It's just weird that it's something that's like always been ever present going back to the beginning of music, and it's just like I'm not entirely sure why, somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, it all of a sudden became like, oh, wait, this is the music that has emotion to it. And it's just like, yeah, have you ever listened to like Mozart? It's just like, or anything like that, or like even up
It was
through
the
now,
original
like
emo.
Yes.
or like listen to U2. Like, I mean, why was U2 never called emo? Those big sweeping choruses and stuff. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm not a music journalist.
Guinea Pigs were a rock band to me before I joined, and then because like Matt was saying, the emo term was like used to make fun of them.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like when all of a sudden then it became like a mall term for stores and things, and I mean, I've made a lot of money off that term. So.
All right.
No, what I'm saying.
Let's not talk about
Yes.
James's money.
Yes, there we go. Right. Well, hey, either way, no matter what you call it, that album was a hit. You find yourself on tour now. You're going out with Green Day. You're going out with Weezer. Tell us about that time in your career.
That was a crazy time just because that was like the time we were on the road, just nonstop. But the record kept doing more.
Well, we had
and
already
more.
done 2 years of touring
Yeah,
on
and it's
Something
like
Right Home
we
About
were
When.
on-
It's like, hey, do you want to open up for Weezer? And it's kind of like, so tired. But
So just when you
yeah,
wanted to stop,
yeah.
they wanted more.
Yeah,
They wanted
when-
more.
Yeah, we couldn't really say no. So there you go.
Yeah. All right, let's have another song if we could, please, gentlemen. What are you going to play here?
Better This Way?
sure.
All right, this song's called Better This Way. It was on a EP we put out just a bit ago called Kicker. If there was a way, if there was a way out, well, you could be the first one, just waiting in line. You don't like change, so why you wanna get out? When everything is beautiful, it's harder to find. Oh, I know I've been wrong, so wrong before, but I assure you this time, if you walk away alone, it will have a scream and plead. You can need me, I'll be here. If you wanna disappear, it would be wrong to stay. I guess some things are better this way. I know you're scared, but you can't keep running. Oh, we can think of something and make it alright. To lose this game, not all is wasted. 'Cause what we are saving is still worth the fight. Oh, I know I've been wrong, so wrong before, but I assure you this time, if you walk away alone, it will have a scream and plead. If you need me, I'll be here. If you wanna disappear, it would be wrong to stay. I guess some things are better this way. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. If you need me, I'll be here. If you wanna disappear, it would be wrong to stay. I guess some things are better this way. Am I making myself clear? You shouldn't have to waste a year to watch your dreams unfade. I guess some things are better this way. I guess some things are better this way. I guess some things are better this way.
It's the Get Up Kids on 90.9 The Bridge. We've asked the audience to hold their applause, but it's okay. You can clap for yourself.
We're our
It's okay.
own biggest champion.
You, of course you are. Yes, that's right. Let's talk about after something to write home about, On a Wire. Departure, change of pace for the band. Did you went more subdued? You went a bit more with what would you call it? A mainstream sound, maybe?
Well,
I think Rolling
Looking
Stone
back on
called
it,
it
no.
emo Americana.
Oh yeah, there you go. Right. What led to that change of pace?
wanted to try something different, like I think we were listening to a lot of stuff. Like we were listening to a lot of Wilco. We were listening to a lot of like more singer-songwritery kind of things. Jim went through his Beatles phase during that period. These turkeys all started growing their hair out and wearing bell bottoms and stuff.
At the time, I guess from the outside looking in, it seemed like a very big directional change for our music. But then when you kind of look at the whole scope of all our music,
Right.
it all kind of fits in there. But at the time, yeah, it's not like it's not a punk rock record.
Yeah, and it was weird because like I think we didn't realize that people had created like what they thought we were, because we just thought we were this band and then we can do whatever we want. But then there was definitely like it was a hard turn for a lot of people who weren't ready to take that turn with us. But
You only get that gift through hindsight, right? When you're
Yeah.
able to look at a band's body of work and say, well, this is how it all fits together.
people apologize to me for how much they didn't like that record, and now
Yeah,
they love it.
ironically, people always, oh, that's my favorite record.
Yeah.
Like, where were you? And
2002.
Right. But you get pigeonholed after, I mean, especially after.
What's the reason we're still able to do it now? It's like because we
Yeah.
took those lumps and we made those creative decisions, and we have a career now because of it. Like it wasn't like this like late '90s flash in the pan thing.
So Guilt Show came next, and then let's talk about adulting, because by that time there's marriage, birth, divorce. All of these factors are starting to play into this, and it seems like the outside relationships are starting to have an effect on your relationship.
I don't know if that was the case. It was definitely more of we had been going nonstop for a decade at that point, and I needed a break. I had started a family before these guys had, and we just, hindsight being 2020, we should have just taken a year off. But those aren't the kind of decisions you make when you're 27.
Did you have an expectation when you started about how long you thought this could go?
we
At
thought,
least
we thought
through
we were
the
going
end
to
of-
go back to college.
Yeah,
a year
through the end of the
after.
summer
okay,
of 19.
okay.
No,
through
I
the end
knew-
of the summer of 1997 was our
we-
original
we
plan.
knew we had a record deal. We knew we were going to go to Europe. We were all like 19 years old, so I thought, all right. I was going to the Kansas City Art Institute at the time,
Yeah.
and I could keep my scholarship if I could take 1 year off and keep it. So,
Sure.
And then
And
that
that's what
that
we
never
were all
happened.
really concerned about was
Yeah.
making sure Jim kept his
That's
scholarship.
all I
Scholarship,
cared
yeah.
about.
Yeah. So 1995 to 97, that was your initial lifespan.
Yeah, maybe we should have been thinking a lot, having a better business plan, but what are you going to do?
Well, I find it interesting, because then you guys decide to kind of dial it back a little bit. What is day one like not in the Get Up Kids?
To be completely honest, very hungover. Because our last show, we imbibed quite a bit.
In a weird way, we were never not in the Get Up Kids, just because
Yeah.
it's still a business that was functioning on some ways, and then like we had a recording studio that we still all owned together and had to deal with all. So there was always sort of business. It just wasn't music making.
Right. So it's interesting, I think, at this point to mention the quote unquote side projects, the other stuff. Matt, you were talking about the birth of your first child, which then you went on to actually make kids' music
Yeah.
in a way with the Terrible Twos.
He played Lollapalooza Kid Stage. Look at him.
Yeah, there you go.
That was my peak.
But you really wanted to make music that your
Well, I had young kids, and kids' music is terrible. And so I wanted to make something that I was like, this, surely I can do better than this stuff. And also, it was the first thing that I did after we broke up, and there was no way anybody was going to be like, compare the Terrible Twos to the Get Up Kids. Like, it was kind of like a
I'm
pass.
sure someone tried.
And when we play a Terrible Twos show, no one yells out, play Campfire Kansas. They go, what sound does a lion make? Ah.
I wondered if it was a palate cleanser after being
Yes.
in this group for so long.
It was an amuse-bouche.
Yeah, you had to do something completely different. But then came the New Amsterdams. You had that project. We had Rob that joined Spoon in 2005, Jim in Blackpool Lights with our buddy Billy Brimblecombe, who happens to be here today.
Hey, Billy.
James recording as Reggie in the Full Effect, of course, and joining Newfound Glory, and then My Chemical Romance too.
Were you in Newfound Glory?
At least that's what his bio says.
Quite the
anyway.
resume,
I just
James.
go ahead, whoever, that's fine. And Matt, you have some competition now with your daughter in a group, LK Ultra.
No, that's not. I'm wearing their pin right here. No, they're angry femme teenage punk band.
But is it cool to see her grow up in the family business?
Oh God. I don't think about it that way. She's gone on tour with me before, so she knows how hard it is. How long and boring it is to be on the road. But I mean, she's just doing. Her and her friends are doing what we did 24 years ago. They're not our competition. At least not yet.
I didn't mean that really, but it is cool. And actually, I thought it was funny that they call you the guy who created emo.
Yeah, they even though I give them a free rehearsal space in our house, they still make fun of me all the time.
All right, guys, can we have another song, please?
Yeah.
Yes.
This one features Jim Suptic's lead guitar prowess.
Oh, now I'm nervous.
He actually had to grow his hair long to play this guitar solo. The hair actually plays the guitar solo. He's like Samson.
Riding out to the setting sun.
Get up, kids on 90.9 The Bridge. All right, good job, Jim. Right.
Thank you. Positive reinforcement.
Great
always
job to the
works
hair
good.
too. I like that. All right, let's talk about problems. We're to this point.
Let's talk about problems.
Let's talk about problems, shall we? Kick back, get a couch. Peter Katis works on this album, and this is interesting now because this goes back to On a Wire. And Peter engineered that record, right? He worked as an engineer. So you went back to him. What was that thought process?
He's a Grammy Award-winning producer now. That's our thought
Question,
process.
right. I just wanted you to hear it. So.
Andy's just a really great guy and a friend, and I don't know. It was the most fun I've personally ever had making a record.
We talked
It was
about it for
great.
years.
Yeah.
Like, always being like, you should come back up here. We should do this. We're like, yeah, we should do that. And the stars aligned.
Peter's credentials, he's pretty much touched everything the National has put out. He's worked with Interpol. Like I said, he engineered On a Wire. What were you looking to get then out of this record?
A great record. I don't know.
I've read that you said you wanted to make a stomper,
Oh, a ripper.
a ripper.
Yeah, which I guess it could be a stomper too. But my voice is just gone. I'm glad that was the last song. I don't know. Like, I think we just wanted to like not get in our own way, is I think how you put it, where it was just like, just do the things that we're good at, that we work well with. And Peter was really great because he would take things that seemed like really minor suggestions that would then just open up the whole. Like that first song we played today, he was the one who came up with that it should be just me at the top to be like a quiet opener, because we were starting it with just like coming out banging, and it just makes it so much more powerful when it kicks in.
I think we wanted to find the best version of like who we are as a
Yeah.
band, and I think we did. I know we're all really proud of the record.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the album seems to center around these feelings of loneliness, isolation.
Sometimes.
Matt, you've talked about starting to write it about your son, but then it turned into your own story.
Well, I forgot I was writing it about him. I was like, just feeling, we were doing like this thing where we were writing that song, and when I don't have anything written, I'll just sing gibberish into the microphone to kind of mess with the melody. And the word satellite came out, and then I was just thinking about, that could be like a metaphor for being alone, because you're, up in, it's not a common metaphor for being alone, but it works. And, I think we all struggle with that kind of stuff. It doesn't go away necessarily when you get older. Hopefully you learn how to deal with it.
It's funny, the songs that I sing on this record have sort of similar themes as what Matt was writing, yet we weren't talking to each other about what we were doing. It's like a collective unconscious or something.
But then we were all we were very open with each other. We would sit down and talk about, if there was a line that someone didn't like, or if it was we were very open to the, I don't know. It was just kind of just let it happen and let everybody do what they're good at and stay out of.
It was like the monkeys, we're
Yep.
all living together. That's exactly what it was like. Everyone's cracking wise.
There's a crazy TV show coming out soon.
That's it.
Yeah.
We can announce it.
Jim wrote the screenplay.
That's it.
I like that you've said time and time again that after 24 years, the writing hasn't changed, but the perspective has.
Yes.
When you're young, and I know this too now, we have the benefit of age, you have to write these things as ethereal sort of subjects that are out there. What will marriage be like? What will relationships be like? But you have the benefit now of knowledge.
You make us sound so wise. I think if you were, I just turned 42. I think if I was still writing, oh, Amy, don't hate me at 42, that would be really lame. So.
We've always sort of written from a personal perspective, though. Not so much I'm telling a story about this guy or something like that.
Yeah.
We've always had, and maybe that's what people connect with our band, because we are personal.
Yeah, and this record is kind of written from the perspective of some people who've had over 40 years on the earth and over 20 years in the music industry and the ups and downs of all of that. And then also having now this perspective of seeing the next generation of, our kids or our friends or any of that kind of stuff like coming up. And it's an interesting time to observe.
And you guys are pretty killer foosball players from what I hear.
These two are.
That was
You guys just got challenged by Laura Jane Grace, though, when we were at South by Southwest. She's apparently a ripper of a kicker player, too.
Well, it's a fun record, guys. Congratulations on
Thank you.
Problems. Fantastic. Fans of the band are going to love this. A great classic feel, updated sound. Problems out May 10th on Polyvinyl. The Get Up Kids, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.